So I want to talk a little bit more about the effect of keeping secrets. So a secret is withholding the truth, and it takes energy to do that. If it's a personal secret, a secret about ourselves, a secret about our background, it's actually holding the truth of who we are in the background, and that takes energy to do that. It takes a lot of energy to keep the secret of who we are, what our background is, where we come from, what we might have done, the child that we might have given up for adoption, the abortion that we might have had without telling our partner or our husband, or the child that we gave up for adoption, or the relationship that we had with someone that was considered to be unacceptable to have in a relationship with someone of that class, that ethnicity, that race, or from that neighborhood, or at the age that we were at, or someone of the same gender. And so all of these secrets that we keep actually limit who we are as human beings. Because then the truth of who we are, and if we keep the truth of who we are from ourselves, requires energy to do that. And so the question is, if you don't keep a secret from yourself, how much more life force energy will you have available to you? The human body is a great natural healing apparatus, if you like. It knows how to heal itself. The body has very, very strong self-healing qualities. And so what happens when we keep secrets is that it requires a lot of life force energy to keep that in place. Because part of the keeping the secret in place is the avoidance of the truth. How much strategizing does there have to be in order to avoid the truth, in order to avoid that thing ever become known? And so we use life force energy. And then we've got to look at the reason behind keeping the secret. And it's about the fear of having love withdrawn. If my parents know about this, then they will no longer love me. If my partner knows about this, then they will no longer love me. If my friends only knew where it was I really come from, who my grandmother really is, who my grandfather really is, then they will not love me. So secrets are in fact all of the energy that we use to control our lives. And so secrets are an attempt to control how others feel about us. The reality is, we have no control. We have no control anyway. We cannot control how people feel about us. And yet we tell ourselves the lie that if we keep all these secrets, if we keep our feelings a secret, if we never tell people how we feel about certain things, so these are other secrets that we have, our feelings. If we never tell them how we feel about certain things, then we guarantee that their love or their friendship or the relationship stays exactly as it is. And so our secret holding is part of the illusion of controlling how other people feel towards us. And the reality is, if once you reveal the secret, if the person is unable to love you, then what was the quality of their love to start with? It certainly was not unconditional. So children keep secrets from their parents. Parents keep secrets from one another. Parents keep secrets from their children. There are some secrets which are okay to be kept from children. For example, the intimate feelings that flow between mother and father, the internal workings of the relationship. Children should never become a confidant. Children are children, they're not our friends. And they should never become our friends. Our teenage daughter or our teenage son should never become our confidant. It is very, very damaging. In one of my books I've referred to that as emotional incest. And so really wrapping this up, talking about secrets, it requires energy to keep secrets in place. Energy, like emotions, we don't get to choose which bits we suppress. Energy is just one flow. It is like a river, just like emotions. If you suppress sadness, if you suppress anger, if you suppress grief, guess what? You're suppressing joy and happiness and exuberance. You cannot selectively choose which emotion to deaden. You might think that you've been very successful at suppressing all of your anger, but then really ask yourself, how much joy is there? How much enjoyment is there? How much pleasure is there in your life? We do not get to pick and choose. And so with holding secrets, we are using life force energy to keep them in place. We use energy, life force energy, psychological energy, psychic energy, in order to strategize around controlling others and controlling who gets to know the truth. Because of the deep fear that once the truth is known, that we will no longer be loved, that the others will know that we are somehow intrinsically bad, that we're bad, rotten, evil in some way. And so we've bought into the illusion of control. We control others. It is an attempt to control others through keeping secrets and by asking others to keep secrets. Of course, I fully recognize that there were times in the past in our society and culture where the divulging of certain facts about our lives could cost us a lot, could even cost us our lives, could cost us our jobs, etc. That's why those politicians who have the loudest moralist rhetoric, those who speak louder about morals, are generally the ones who are found committing the most unspeakable things and actually doing those very things that they are speaking against. So they seek to suppress the truth of who they are. Seek to suppress the truth of who they are. Shakespeare said, "Thou protestest far too much," did he not? And so secrets take life force energy. And so when I work with individuals, I first start investigating where are their hidden loyalties. That's normally the foundational work that I do with someone. Discovering where are they entangled. For example, if their mother has lived a life of disappointment, and do they then have the courage to be happy despite the fact that their mother has lived a life of disappointment? For most people, the answer is no. If you are born to parents who have lived a life of disappointment, then you are born into the energy of disappointment. And that's when we start telling the first lies. That's when we first start telling the lie of who we are. We lie about who we are. Once we realize that this is an unhappy household, once we realize that this is a household that we've been born into where disappointment is a big feature, it's been a big feature of our parents and their childhood, that's when we first start lying about who we are. We begin to recognize that our joy, our dreams, our exuberance, our own magnificence is a source of pain, even shame and discomfort for the adults around us. And so we start to lie. We lie to ourselves about ourselves. And then we feel guilty. Guilty for being happy. Guilty for being joyous. And then, of course, depending on where our parents have come from, we might have been raised listening to all of the stories of great tragedy and great loss. And in recognition of that, we then put the brakes on experiencing the depth of love, because there is a legacy of loss that's being passed down to us. We don't know specifically what the loss is. We may not know. We will, of course, know that if our parent died when we were very young. But we have been born into a family in which loss is felt. And so whatever is not expressed by the parents is keenly felt by the children. And so if our parents lived through a war or were children during a war, then that loss is felt. That loss is felt and it is known. And so we already know that loss is a bad thing, it's a terrible thing. We become aware of the grief that our parents hold. And so already we begin to hold back from loving fully. Where love itself becomes the source of potential pain. And then as we grow up, we begin to witness how our own dreams are sabotaged by those who say that they love us. Oh, you can't make a living as an artist. Oh, you can't make it as a writer. Nobody gets published nowadays. Oh, there are so many little girls that want to become ballet dancers. Oh, no one in our family has ever become a car mechanic. We're all farmers. And so, little by little, it gets chipped away until the greatest secret of all is kept. And the greatest lie of all is kept and told. The greatest secret of all is the secret of who we truly are. And we even manage to keep that secret from ourselves. And the greatest lie that is ever told is the life that we are living. And that is true, very sadly, for many, many people across the planet. Many people are living a life that is simply a lie. That is not said to dismiss everything that everyone has ever achieved. Within that, a lot of love also lives. People meet, people have children, they fall in love, but there are big chunks of our lives that can be a lie. And many of us are living lies to one extent or another. And so I define success by how truthful have we been to our dream? How truthful have we been? How loyal have we been? How authentic have we been to the truth of who we are? How loyal have we been to the light of our own magnificence? First, our light was snuffed out, and then we learned to snuff it out ourselves. That's too good for me. That will never happen to me. And so we become members of yet another generation living a life of constant disappointment. And even those who have become successful often find themselves with rooms full of gold, driveways full of cars, streets full of houses, and yet they feel disappointed. And that disappointment will always be there when there is the denial of the truth of who you are, of how you truly wish to express yourself. For when we create a life of success, when we create a career, when we create any kind of life, based on the images that are being passed down to us as to what is good and what is bad and how life should be lived, then it can only lead to disappointment. It can only lead to disappointment because we end up empty-handed. We may have all the money in the world and not feel fulfilled. We may have a marriage and children and feel deeply disappointed. We may have a successful career that looks wonderful on the outside but feel disappointed. Or we may be happy in one part of our lives and not in another part of our lives. We may be living a truthful existence in half of our lives but not in the other. We may be loyal and faithful to our inner creative impulses in terms of how we earn our living, but not be true and faithful in terms of the relationships that we have, or the other way around. And so that's one of the reasons why I wrote my latest book, Embracing the Power of Truth. Because all of this, whether we're dealing with shame, whether we're dealing with guilt, whether we're dealing with keeping secrets, it's about encountering truth. But unfortunately, most of us, most people in the world, do not want to encounter truth. They are afraid of the truth. because we believe that by living a lie, either telling ourselves a lie or telling other people a lie, we get to control how people see us, how they view us, and we get to control exactly how much love comes to us. But it is an illusion. We have no control anyway. We cannot control who loves us. And if something is revealed and then that instantly causes the love that somebody else has for us to dissolve, then what was the quality of that love in the first place? That's the deeper question. And so living a life of truth requires inconvenient surrender and total surrender. The only way to avoid deep disappointment is total surrender to the truth of your very own heart. That is the way to avoid a life of continual disappointment, is through the surrendering to the truth of your very own heart. That's the way forward. That is the only way forward. Because we cannot control how other people behave towards us. We cannot control how they love us. We can remove ourselves from situations that feel threatening, disrespectful, or violent. That amount of control we have. But exactly how someone feels about us, towards us, whether they love us or respect us or not, we have no control over that. We never did and we never will. And so we lie in the hope that we can control how others feel towards us, how society feels towards us. But we have no control over that. The most loving and beautiful and magnificent people on the planet have a long list of people who hate them. And that's largely because those who do not have the courage to live in truth assail and attack those who do. The dark attacks the light. The light simply thrives. And we must have the courage to do that, to live in truth, bit by bit, step by step, each day. So, what are some of the signs? You might be wondering, what are some of the signs that we are holding secrets, either from ourselves or from others, and the impact of those? Because you may not be consciously aware that you have secrets, but we all do. And some of the worst secrets we have are the ones that we keep from ourselves, that may seem impossible to many people. You think, well, I'm the only one who lives inside me, so how can I possibly keep a secret from myself? We're very good at doing that. We're extremely good at doing that. Denial is one of those forms as well of keeping secrets. So how do we know? Well, perhaps you feel that you should feel satisfied, happy with the successful career that you've built, but somehow you feel unfulfilled or empty. So there is an internal secret there that you're keeping from yourself. And that's clear and obvious. Perhaps you feel numb. Perhaps nothing makes you happy. Perhaps you're just cruising along, just going through the motions of life. Perhaps even going through the motions of your relationship. Perhaps just being in the habit of being in a relationship, or the habit of being in a job. And so the energy that is required, and it is life force energy that is required to keep secrets, we have literally robbed from ourselves, and that energy can then not be used for the joy of life and for the enjoyment of life. And so we can build lives, lives that look complete. There can be a relationship, there can be children, there can be career, and yet there is something missing there. And so that is very often tied up with the secrets that we've been asked to hold, the secrets that are felt but not particularly conscious. For example, many people are aware that there are secrets within their parents' marriage, or secrets that are being kept in the family, secrets about the family, but it's never spoken of. All those things that are never spoken of, they have the energy of secrets, and it takes life force energy to not talk about them, to ignore them. That's like the emperor in his new clothes. It's the proverbial pink elephant in the middle of the room that everybody's ignoring. It takes life force energy to ignore that. Then there are the secrets that we tell ourselves. We might be very successful at something. We could be a successful surgeon, or a successful accountant, or a successful anything. Baker, candlestick maker, butcher, farmer. We can be very successful at something, but have never actually had the courage, because our light was dimmed many times that we've become accustomed to dimming our own lives, to tell ourselves that what we really long for is to be a clothes designer. Or what we really long for, instead of having a career, is to be a stay-at-home mum. There are lots of pressures on people to fulfill certain roles. And so, if you're feeling like you should be happy but you're not happy, like all the elements of your life indicate that you should feel successful, satisfied, happy, fulfilled, and yet you don't, that is because there is a secret. And that's more than likely to be a personal secret, something you're holding from yourself. If you're feeling numb, if the only way that you can ever feel any kind of emotional flow is through being angry, or depressed, or frustrated, or through alcohol, through having fun by being a party girl or a party boy, if that's the only way, or going to the football match to shout and scream for your team. Some people only feel joie de vivre, they only feel excitement through sport, through alcohol, through drugs, through making more money, through buying more stuff. That's the only time that there is something that resembles joy. And yet there can be great joy at simply witnessing the sun rising. Great joy at beholding the face of a baby that's smiling back at you. Great joy at beholding a flower, something in nature, or some exquisite piece of art. And yet many of us are walking around numb, absolutely numb, because we are buried under layers of shame and of the secret that we hold around shame. Our deepest shameful secret is shame itself. And we're so afraid to reveal our shame, because the fear is, if we reveal our shame, that someone is going to say, yeah, that's something to be ashamed of. You are bad. You are rotten. You are not good enough. You are not enough. That's our deep fear. However, shame cannot survive being spoken of. It cannot survive being brought into the light of consciousness. Once shame is spoken of, it loses its tight grip on us. And so the source of all secrets is shame. And behind shame is self-hatred. And self-hatred and shame are transgenerational in nature. They've been passed down from grandparents to parents to children. That it has been passed down from the pulpits. It has been passed down by politicians. It's been passed down by the lords of the land. It's been passed from one generation to another, and we pass it to one another. People like you can't become this. People like you can't be successful. Girls can't do that. Boys shouldn't do that. And so we pass on shame to one another. But once we bring shame and the shameful secret, which is about the shame itself, into the light of consciousness, it loses its grip. Shame cannot survive in the light. And how do we bring something into the light? We speak about it. And so once that is revealed, it then becomes unpalatable and more painful, more consciously painful, to tell lies about ourselves and to keep secrets about other things and for other people. And then we all begin to live in more truth. As we live in more truth, then our magnificence begins to emerge. And we start to live lives of a more fulfilled human being.